Dear class, I hope this video finds you well. I hope that you had a great extended holiday and that today, Wednesday, you're getting over the hump and things are going well. I'm gonna sort of drill down to the historical presentation. Nonetheless, I'll give you a quick overview of this week, week 3, overview of social policy, policy analysis, practice, and advocacy. And some of the objectives of this week include describing the policies and programs that exist for vulnerable populations, defining social welfare policy and agency policy, identifying how social welfare programs are structured, and exploring values and how they affect policy development. And again, you have your week 3 discussion board. Again, a couple of responses to peers. What I am looking for in discussion board posts is an integration of the readings. And so if I'm looking at, some of the readings that you have for this week, that includes chapters 6, 7, and 8 in your textbook, social work and social welfare. And then you also have some work to do with the writer's handbook, which is more relevant to preparing for your literature review. But again, I like to see, at least a couple of in-text citations, a couple of applications of content. Those are very, very important in terms of your discussion board post. And then you have a nice interactive video as well with regard to policy changes. Okay, and so let's talk a little bit about the historical assignment. So for the most part, I've received your outlines and had a chance to provide feedback. And one, I want to clarify again, there's a presentation and a paper they're doing the same week, okay? If I were looking at this project, I would think that I would write the paper first. The paper is paramount because then the presentation is sort of a condensed version of the paper. With regard to the paper, I don't have any samples as of yet. I have been asking my peers for that information. I was asked about a page limit. And while I don't like to impose page limits, I feel that this paper is somewhere in the range of 12 to 15 pages, excluding the title page and excluding the reference section. Okay, and it should be in APA format. But what I think is important, in addition to the content that you're retrieving, okay, related to your topic and related to your timeline, again, is integration of the readings. And so, when I look through a chapter, for example, in particular, when I'm looking at chapter 6, I see things that will help me with my paper. For example, on page 179, there is a timeline. Will you decide to include a timeline or visual of that timeline? And then you also see throughout the chapter, in chapter 6, you see themes. For example, on page 181, U.S. social welfare history, early colonization to the mid-1800s. So you see there, the time period is defined. And then if you flip the page, you begin to see themes emerge. And I think that's very important to your paper, all right? Timelines have distinct time periods, but then there are also these sub-themes. So here's sub-theme, focus on mental health and mental illness on page 182. And then on page 183, you see focus on the American Indian, First Nations people. And then you even, one of my favorite pieces are the text boxes in the chapter. On page 183, highlight 6.2, where it talks about Dorothea Dix, a mental health advocate. That might be, you might find some pieces in your timeline where you say, it doesn't really fit, but it's important. It's related, but it's important. I want it to stand out, it's important. So maybe you think about doing a text box in your paper. And so one of the things that I really want to point out is notice how chapters, in particular, chapter 6, is organized. That gives you some insight into how you might organize your paper. Subheadings are really, really important, okay? And the other thing that's important is integration of concepts from the reading. In this chapter, we see things like urbanization, immigration, advocacy, charity organization societies, assimilation. Some of these general terms, some of these general social work terms that we see in the chapter should be represented in your paper and cited in your paper. All right? Now, you're going to have other citations. You're going to be able to, especially with regard to that information that's specific to your topic, okay? You're going to use the sources that you located. Nonetheless, if I read assimilation in the paper, then I'm looking from a citation from Karen's book. Or if I'm looking at a term like public assistance, I'm looking for a citation from the book. So I can't really express to you how important it is to integrate common social work and social welfare terms from the book in your historical presentation. All right, a couple of other important pieces. I would really value if at least one member from every group participated in office hours leading up to this project. I think it'll help. I think it'll help the group. I think it'll help the class. I think it'll help me, and I think it'll put us all on the same page. Secondly, I strongly recommend that you reach out to Karen Butler, our social work librarian, okay? I really strongly recommend that. The other piece, and I'll be if you reach out to Karen, let me know. I'd like to know that you did that. I'd like to know that you took the advice, and I'll be reaching out to Karen as well. The other piece, I strongly recommend that prior to submitting your paper, that you share your paper with someone in the Writing Resource Center. Now, I can't require it. Well, maybe I could, but I'm going to strongly recommend it. In fact, if you do share your paper with the Writing Resource Center, and maybe you share with them some of the points that I'll share with you, as we lead up to the assignment, and you have some type of affirmation that you met with the Writing Assistance Center, your group did, then please share that with me. I would appreciate knowing, and I don't know, maybe there's something there. So those are the pieces that I really want to talk about. Lastly, and with regard to the presentation should not be a PowerPoint presentation. It should be a multimedia presentation. Therefore, there's no need for notes. There's no need for interpretation. It should be a multimedia presentation. And I sent out an email earlier on what types of presentation are acceptable. Multimedia could also include a PowerPoint with audio or PowerPoint with video. But I want to be able to listen to and look at your presentation. So, even many video presentations by your members would also be acceptable. I hope this is helpful. I'm going to review this video and see if there's anything else that I need to include with regard to guidance on the paper. But again, please consult with Karen. Please have someone at the Writing Resource Center read your paper. And if you're going to take advantage of the Writing Resource Center, you should probably try and schedule an appointment ahead of time, possibly now, looking forward. All right, everyone have a great rest of your week. Please remember to submit questions for the weekly video, and talk to you next week. Bye-bye.